All right, it's recording. And you can just start whenever you're comfortable and ready.
Oh, cool. As I was telling Ian out there earlier, so I, on your list, think that, I was really excited when I saw it because my favorite play by Shakespeare is on the list.
Ooh, and which play is that?
It'd be Henry V.
Okay, cool. Ooh,
And it's the monster of them, right? It has 40 characters. It's 17 hours long. And I don't believe in doing Shakespeare light. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, so I was telling Ian it's actually the play that made me fall in love with Shakespeare.
Really?
I was, oh God, I'm gonna say 18. I think maybe 17 or 18. I don't know. Anyway, it was like a year before I started going to the Great River Shakespeare Festival to work.
Okay.
I was dating one of the actors in the company, and he said, "Why don't you come and check out this festival I'm working at?" And I took a Greyhound bus from Norman, Oklahoma, to middle of nowhere, Minnesota. I think everybody should take a Greyhound bus once, because then they have the Greyhound bus story that gives them credence to never have to do it again.
Is it a better or worse experience than Amtrak?
Oh my God! I sat next to a 19-year-old white rapper who was breaking into the Christian music scene because that's where the money is, and he's going to Kansas City to do that. Yeah, I will never forget that because God won't allow me. But anyway, so I get up there, and they were doing Macbeth.
Okay.
Let's see what they're doing. They were doing Macbeth, they were doing Twelfth Night, and they were doing Henry V that year. And John got me tickets to see everything, and I said, well, Henry V, I don't want to see a history. It's boring. I don't want to do it. But he made me go see it, and it was the best thing I saw there that weekend. I think some of Shakespeare's finest writing is in that play. It was in this play. And it's because it's a play about the underdog. And the beauty of that is that the great power at the time that he was representing and writing for is seen as the underdog in this play. And so in many ways it's a play about hope, and it's a play about valor. And I think it's also a play that really shows the humanness in all of it, because it centers around Harry, and it repeatedly, through soliloquy after soliloquy, demonstrates for us just how human the royals could be. Just the way that they feel, the way that they interact, and the way that they hope. And I think the other thing that's really beautiful in that, especially as we live in modern times, whenever I read this play, I think about the picture of Barack Obama sitting in the Situation Room with like Hillary and everybody, and they're like going to kill Osama bin Laden, right? I think about that moment because so much of that is in this play. I'm going to make one action as a monarch, and before I make that action, what is the fallout? What are the consequences going to be? And we get to see so much of that, and so much of the turmoil and inner struggle that brings for Harry, particularly when he's thinking about the lives lost both on the English and French side going into battle. And there's a great section where they talk about is the king actually responsible for everybody's death and for everybody's afterlife because of the actions of war. Anyway, all that to say, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful play. But it is a 17-hour-long play. So I've been working on it myself, and I pulled an old cut from a 3-hour cut, so I've used some of this. I think we can get it to 2 hours with an intermission. I think we can do that. We have to cut out some parts that make me very angry at you all for having to not do Shakespeare live. But no, I think that there's a lot of... the play takes us kind of around Harry, giving us everybody's views on him and beliefs on him. Okay. And I think we can cut a lot of that out. Like, I think we'll get it.
I see.
You know what I mean? I think we can slice some of that, just really get to the meat of the play. And then in looking at I think we can do it with 14 actors.
Okay.
The way I have it cut, with getting rid of some people, merging characters, and getting and double casting on that. I think we can do it with 14. Everyone will have. There are no small parts
Okay.
in a 14 actor Henry V, but I think we can do it. And I think it'd be really clean to do it that way. These lines through lines, I hate it. Anyway, and I think the way I'd like to do it is this. So last year we did, let's also step back. So last year Stephen learned a lot about how BakerShakes work. Stephen learned a lot about the great, wonderful things that BakerShakes is capable of, and some of the things that BakerShakes is not capable of that I thought that we were. But I think that's good. I think we did a great job. So I intentionally did not tell friends of mine who are professors here and who work here that I had anything to do with the BakerShakes because I wanted to know what their response was going to be when they mentioned me they were going. And everybody seemed like they really had a good time. So there's definitely some things I want to keep from that. But last year we did it in an alley, right? With this, I think we can do it in a thrust.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do, now this is always difficult because this is a history. So this, some iteration of this happened, right?
Yeah.
But I think you all know that I'm really allergic to Renaissance anything. And I think it's because you get into like bright colors, Renaissance fair, who's going to joust and who's going to buy the funnel cake, right? Like I'm allergic to it. And I think it'd be fun to set this during World War I. And I'm talking about time period. And here's why. Number one, it gives us very easy costume delineation between the English and the French, right? We can make that very transparent. I think it gives us a lot of freedom to play with costumes for the French royalty and for particularly Catherine and Isabel and all that. I think that we get to have a lot of fun with those scenes with costuming if we're dealing with, French fashion in the 1910s, 19-teens. And then I think the other thing I'd like to do with that is add, and this is where everyone's going to hate me because they're going to go, I thought you figured out what we're capable of doing, but you are doing a 1910 silent film aspect to this. And here's where I'm going with that. So this is my beautiful set drawing for when I was writing the script. As you can see, I'm very good at that.
Sure.
So now, what I'd like to do, and I'll walk you through what I'm doing here because I cannot draw. So here is the balcony, right?
Okay.
What I'd like to do is put 2 ladders here, leaning them. And between them, have a white sheet or fabric, okay? Stage coming out here, like this.
Okay.
With audience here on 3 sides. Put one of those platforms we built here, and we use the blocks that we built, which you all should use forever because blocks are wonderful, out here to separate the scenes. This is going to help us in 2 ways. Number one, we had lighting problems last year, as in with lights in people's eyes, and doing it this way is going to keep the lights high.
Okay.
Because we can put a tree here in this balcony on one side, and we can have them hanging from the pipes. And that's going to give us top light going down, right? The other thing I'd like to do, and this is going to be really easy to get between all of our resources, are 2 projectors. One coming from one pipe, we can hang it from one pipe, and one coming from behind the screen.
Okay.
The reason for this is we can have 2 effects going on at once.
Sure.
As a part of transitions, as a part of what's going on during the scenes, we can bring text onto the screen from the outer projector. It's going to help us because, like I said, with 40 characters and all these scenes and condensing it down, we're going to have to give the audience information some other way so they know where we are, what's going on. But then from the back, we can do patterns to delineate if we're inside. We can do like a brocade silhouetted pattern. We can do traveling. We can do silhouette things if we want to show some sort of battle aspect. We can create such a world with projections, and they're so easy to do, and they dress up any production, right? They dress it up immediately, and they're simple. I think we will also use the balcony here for several. So like there's a scene when the English are coming into oh God, what is that city? It's Harfleur. When the English are coming into Harfleur and King Henry stands before the gates and he goes, basically, let me in and I will do nothing. Don't let me in and I will rape all of your women and kill everybody. But I think there's a beautiful way to have like the governor standing up top and Henry and his troops are coming out through, and what that also allows is if we have vomitoriums here, where actors can come in on these sides for specific scenes, it lets the audience be part of Henry's army in many situations.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Neat, yeah.
It's a way to kind of have that audience interaction because the chorus speaks directly to the audience, right? And then there's two situations where you can't tell if Henry's talking to the audience or not, but if we create situations where the audience along with the actors are a part of his troupe, then it becomes pretty clear. The reason I want ladders is because that's a great way for people to sit on like a top rung while somebody's there. It gives you great levels. And it also gives that kind of industrial feel that adding the primitive screen with primitive film aspects, black and white, whatever, patterns, it all lends to an aesthetic there. I still think, the way I work, I don't like big set pieces. I think that blocks and that the platform, I think that's fine. I think we can be really flexible around that.
Okay.
I do think that, last time we emphasized all blacks. I think we do want more kind of basic military garb.
Okay.
But the beauty of doing anything in a wartime period, essentially you need khaki clothes and you need navy clothes and then you need helmets. Anything else can be, a patch stitched onto something. It can all be really indicative, and it keeps things very simple. But then I do think we can have fun with, whatever the French royalty wears, and that's 3 costumes. Give them a nice flapper dress and a heel, and you're good. Lots of pearls and maybe a band on the hair. Done.
Yeah.
But I think that'd be something fun to play with. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for this. I think it would be a great... Looking at kind of season curation of what you guys are doing, we talked about this outside. I think that looking at your list of plays, going from a comedy of errors to either a 12th Night or Merry Wives of Windsor is kind of keeping you in the same vein, whereas this is then stepping into something else. And then down the road, you can do Merry Wives of Windsor directed by somebody who's not me, because I do not like that play. I think John Falstaff is a lot of fun, but I think we get enough of him in this play. By that I mean he dies. And what's funny about this though is that I really believe that Falstaff is only in this play as like a pull for audience members of like tracking the John Falstaff story, because if you don't know anything about Falstaff, you don't know any reason of why he's dying in this play, and I may cut him out of the play altogether because we don't need him. He's too fat. Okay, briefly, because I have an anecdote for everything. My problem with Falstaff began when I performed in the opera Falstaff. And I was commissioned to be in this opera, not because I can sing, because I cannot, but because the people who engineered the stage and everything, Falstaff gets thrown out of the window in a basket, and the stage was a rake stage. And they didn't put a trap door in the basket, so we had to actually carry a basket. Now you would think that they would cast a Falstaff and put a fat suit on him, but this man's name was Anthony Eversole, and he weighed 425 pounds, and the basket was 100 pounds. And so there were 4 of us that were brought in to come in full costume in 2 scenes, but one of them specifically to carry this man up a raked stage and throw him out a window. And because of that, I have no interest in Falstaff in any situation. Anyway,
Good history.
yeah, no more of that. But back to this. I think that set-wise, always, like I said, we would need is the 2 ladders, the wood, preferably. But the other thing about wood ladders is, let's say there's not a ladder tall enough, it's so easy to build a primitive wood ladder. It's just stick lumber. That's an afternoon. And then the fabric sheet, I think maybe 1 or 2 of those platforms just to put up here to give us a little, that are already built from last year with the audience on them. And then just using the blocks, create different scenes that way. And I think that we have a lot of flexibility in levels to do there. The thing about this play is it's such a talky play. It's such like, and the chorus tells you that from the very beginning. It's going to say, we're going to tell you that this happened and we want you to see it in your mind. We're going to tell you that this is what's going on.
Okay.
But this is a play that's like, oh, we all just got back from having a great battle scene and now we're sitting here talking about it. Like that's the whole play until the very end when we're actually falling in love. So what I think could be fun is if, and this is the kind of the stretch, this is the we don't have to have, but we could have, and it would be fun to put in those projections, is if there was a student who was interested in film, who was interested in gathering cast members together in a grass to create like a 15-second like battle scene to then wipe out everybody's faces, just make it black and white, make it silhouetted, so that we can see some of that in transition, right? I think that could be fun for somebody.
Yeah.
We don't have to have that to make this work, but again, I think that is something that that would be fun. I don't think we need live music for this. I do think what would be great, and I actually have one we could use, is to have a phonograph on stage for some of those scenes. I think that would be terrific.
Okay.
And I have one that can be used.
Oh.
It doesn't have a big spindly, bell. If we have one of those, great.
Yeah.
But I don't think we want to spend $600 on eBay for that. But if somebody does and wants to donate it for, the show and then have it in their house, I would fully endorse that decision-making process.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that is what I think would be really cool for this.
That would be super cool.
So, do you have any questions for me?
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, of course Ian Mousy has a couple of questions. This does not surprise me in the least.
A couple of these are just basic production level questions that everyone who's pitching for BakerShake needs to be able to answer. How many female characters are in the show?
In the show, well, there's a big difference between female characters and female actors. So
and one of the other questions was going to be what opportunities for cross-casting.
So there's specifically 3 female tracks, and that's the Nell Alice, and then the little boy who could be a messenger who can then play Sir Court, and then Catherine, and I think we'll throw Isabel into somebody else's. So there's 4 specifically girl tracks. That said, I mean, Henry can be a female for all I care. To me, to be perfectly honest, I am most interested in, with this project, who is able to tackle what. Because as I said, Henry V is a massive, massive play. And doing it with 14 actors gives everyone a great task at hand, right? And so whoever is ready to show up and do it well, can be Henry, can be, they won't be Falstaff. There can be the chorus, I'm trying to think of some of the really big ones. They could be, what do I have to do for? The Ellie Cambridge Dauphin and Jamie line. Whoever's ready to show up and do that will get the opportunity to do that. There have been female Hamlets. Dallas Theatre Center is now doing Christmas Carol with a female actor playing Scrooge. So, to answer that briefly, 4 specific tracks, but there may be a man playing one of those tracks and a woman playing Henry. So.
Cool. I think that sounds pretty neat.
What else? You said you had several. Oh, well, those are the only 2.
Those are the 2 I had in mind right from the start.
I just want to put you in a wig and watch you speak French. Basically, is what I'm interested in.
I did take French in high school. It's
Alright,
been, close to 10 years at this point.
Well, there are 2 scenes in this play that are completely in French.
Dude,
and then
Laura's gonna throw a fit that she's busy. Oh my god.
And then 2 other scenes that have English and French.
Although that does raise another question I had. What opportunities for alumni participation will there be? BakerShake, as you know, runs on alumni as much as it runs on the students.
Again, whomever. For me, it comes down to whomever. This is something. Okay, I'm going to be very candid. Last year, when I auditioned for this, it was whispered in my ear by someone, use as many people as you can. And I mistook that to say, put as many actors in the show as you can. And that's why we stretch so much out. What I'd like to do this year is have a 14-actor play. and get the people who want to dedicate the time to performing in the play and getting it down to be in the play. But I want to get a lot of people involved outside that as well, so that we can do things like create, slides and films and things like that to put in there. And to whomever wants to be a part of this in their way and what they can contribute, I say let's do it. Let's make it a really collaborative thing. And I think by really being specific in casting of who is ready to do that portion, would then give a greater opportunity for those that aren't necessarily interested in being in the show to still be involved in very unique and specific ways. So alumni, women, animals at minimum, professors, whomever. I say let's do it. Absolutely.
Okay.
And as a male alumni, Ian, I'm going to go home and dream tonight about you in a wig speaking French. And in a 1910s French Vogue fashion. This is my new concept for the show.
Time to change the page. It's all centered on me.
What else?
Do you have anything else are you gonna think some more?
I'm gonna think a little bit more on this.
Alright, so let's just talk about what kind of like Lisa's and my plans are for BakerShake this year too as well. So this year we do want to make it like not just BakerShake. We're gonna try to make this a bigger deal. Right now BakerShake has, I would say, like a tepid reputation among Baker. People do like it and they think it's like a really cool tradition, but at the same time it takes up our library, it takes up our commons, and just relative to the other colleges we don't have a lot of common space, so that's why it's like a huge deal that we take up commons for students. And so there's definitely this balance that we have to find. But I think something else too, given recent events of like the Rice Gallery closing, the opening of the Moody Center, and like this new campaign of Art at Rice, and like all the posters that feature student artwork don't credit the students, which is very interesting. So anyways, long story short is that there is a large sentiment among the student body for a huge lack of appreciation for humanities in general, but especially student art on campus. And so I was thinking of one way to maybe kind of take this into our own hands, as well as develop BakerShake into something even bigger that might even continue to expand the possibilities of participation for other students, is making it almost like a sort of arts week. So we're going to have, of course, our performances, but in addition to that, I've spoken to our new magisters, and they're 100% behind it, about having like an art show where students can just like hang their visual art around like the master's house or maybe around Baker. People can walk around, and so we don't have to showcase just the performing arts, but also Baker's sculptures and paintings and photography. And since we already have a stage, we could work something out to have like our muses perform, or even like hobby musicians perform and stuff, or just anyone who wants to do anything. Like, I'm pretty fair game to it. That means at least on our end, we're definitely going to have a lot more planning to do.
Well, that's so Shakespearean.
But
you can even have bear baiting before the show.
Yeah. Aisha, one of our RAs, was talking about she has a friend who does like stage combat stuff, bringing someone in to do like a demo of stage combat, maybe even have like a little workshop where Bakerites can sign up and learn some basics of it. Just all sorts of stuff. And so I don't know that it would have too much effect on the show itself. Rather, there's just like definitely a lot more planning that we're gonna have to put in around this too. But I think that depending on kind of what comes out of this, there might be some really cool aspects that come out of like the art show and all this other stuff that we do with it that could contribute to the show. In addition to that, we were taught to kind of now go along the line of Ian's question about alumni participation. I was talking to one woman, an associate who's on the alumni committee. They were saying that one of the best turnouts they've had of Rice alumni was for like this Shakespeare festival, and Rice at not Discovery Green. Where was it?
Houston Shakespeare Festival in Miller Outdoor Theater.
I think it might have just been that one. Yeah, was it that? Okay. Yeah, it was that. So they had like an alumni night where all the Rice alumni came together and they got to drink beer and they watched Shakespeare and everything. And that's like, yeah, they said it was surprisingly the best turnout they've had at any of their events. So they're interested in doing an alumni night for BakerShake too, because they like that even more, because it also gets alumni to come in and kind of have some interaction with current students too. They want to see more of that. And then the biggest effect really that I'm kind of would like to aim for, but it's not like a big requirement or deal breaker or anything, is I think one way to also get increased student attendance to performances is if we have just like maybe one or two sort of really tiny cameo things that we could give to certain Bakerite students who are maybe like super popular, but they're not really theater types. But if we got them to do like this one really short, quick, zany scene, or they just got to like appear and do some weird shit or something, it would like draw students in. Like, dude, yeah, I totally want to see like John Michael Austin do this weird shit, like, or walk around in tights or something. Or then also get like alumni, because it wouldn't matter so much to freshmen, but then like the sophomores, juniors, seniors be like, oh my god, I haven't seen Victoria Ung in forever. She's coming back, and like,
have to be part of the fight scene.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, with this, there's so much condensation of characters on stage simply because we don't have a cast of 40. That I mean, doing anything war related makes that very simple. And then the other thing is, doing anything with film that is done on its own schedule then doesn't necessarily require that they be there every night, be at any rehearsals. They just are part of whatever's filmed and put on the screen projected, and that way it's a part of it. I think another thing that's going to help you are two, and it involves being more, and this is on me too, this is absolutely on me, being on top of everything at the beginning, having costumes done at the beginning, having set things done at the beginning, and here's why. I think two things that will help you is one, a trailer. And I think that's very simple to do, especially with this. You go in there, you set up part of what a stage would look like, or you take somebody to somewhere on campus in a costume with some monologue soliloquies together, you stream it together with transitions, you have a trailer. That boosts your social media presence. The other thing that we used to do this when I was in Winona all the time. We did it with the Merry Wives of Windsor with John Falstaff, but I'll grin and bear this. That play involved a lot of heavy drinking, a lot of heavy scenes. We would go in costume to different. So Winona, let me back up. Winona's a tiny little town with a different bar in every corner and 6 people sitting in every bar. We don't know how all of them are open. But we would go, like we'd pick a night and we would go and we would just set characters in the bar, and they would have a scene, whatever, just in the bar with people interacting. And I think that there are so many sections of this play using Pistol, Nim, and Bardolph that could easily, what is that, whatever.
Valhalla.
I mean, think about what a crazy event that would be if it's BakerShake's is at Valhalla and you have actual characters from Henry V sitting there raising a pint and drinking in the corner of the bar.
That would be,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or put it outside, because I know that students under a certain age can't go down there, but you know what I mean? I think that's really easy to do. It involves both having lines and costumes ready earlier than a week before the show, and I think that's very doable. But I think you're absolutely right that the more you're able to interact with people, the better. I think the other thing that is easy to do is some of Henry's speeches. I mean, put somebody out in a costume in a common somewhere and have him give a soliloquy. Have her give us a soliloquy. Have the dog give us a soliloquy. Whomever we cast as Henry V. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think that's really simple, and I think that's what's going to help bring people in.
That reminded me of something, but no, I forgot it immediately. What was it?
While you think of that, I think what you're talking about is something that people, in the theater world have been talking about really over the past 5 years, which is that the answer to dwindling audiences is to erase this idea that going to the theater is submitting your Friday night to sitting in a dark room and watching people yell at you, right? I mean, honest to God, there's a great book called Theater of the Unimpressed by Jordan Tannehill, where he's a playwright and a director, and he now allows only one person to yell once in a play just because he wants to erase that. But what people are moving to is creating a theatrical experience. And that's being done in many ways, from microdrama events to having what's the word?
Multimedia?
Well, kind of, but when there's like many different types of art forms contributing to one event. There's a word for it.
Yeah, I don't know it either.
Y'all are Rice students, you should know. But anyway, you know what I mean? I think that, and that's exactly what you're talking about, is creating something that is an event, something that is an experience, and I think that that people will really respond to that.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. So our schedule is interesting this year because normally we perform the week after spring break because we build our set during spring break, right? Well, we're doing it 2 weeks after spring break because the weekend after spring break is Beer Bike, which I don't know if you're familiar with that tradition of ours. Huge event. So we're going to have Willy Week, and then if we try to make this like a Baker Arts Week, it'll be 2 big weeks at Baker right in a row, and it's going to be pretty crazy. So this is definitely something we have to keep in mind. Beer Bike has historically liked to use whatever kind of stage BakerShake has set up because we have like Mr. Baker pageant and just like a few other, and like beer debates, a few other things that is it's really convenient
last
to
year
them.
when there was no stage?
I don't hang out on campus very much these days.
Last year we didn't have a stage, but we had the lights, and we kept the lights up a week after our performance because Beer Bike that time was after BakerShake. And they used the lights for like Mr. Baker and beer debates and stuff, and then they took the lights down for us, which was super. Oh, God, I know, but now we are after them, so we'll probably be responsible for takedown. But now, anyways,
I will note, in the past, BakerShake has performed on Beer Bike Weekend, and we usually get a fair amount of audience attendance from that because alumni are in town for Beer Bike, and
true, good point, yeah.
And I do enjoy having multiple weekends of shows. 2 weekends helps us figure out, all right, these things worked. Now we can make sure to do them more. These things didn't work. We can avoid them. Right. Or here's how this scene really needs to work if we're going to do this.
Right. So our performance dates are tentative, and I'm definitely open to expanding it to 2 weekends. I think the biggest concern is that if we do have performances on Beer Bike Weekend, we need to figure out a way to make that work with the student actors who are gonna want to get super smashed for Beer Bike.
Let me also interject something, speaking to your point. My recommendation, in my infinite vast amounts of wisdom, if you do extend another week, is to extend it after. Because I will say, and this is not just from working with Rice, this is from working with many student actors, it is difficult to return from 9 days of vacation, go into tech and put up a show. It's difficult. You lose your steam, frankly. Yeah. And so I do think that there is some, when I saw that I said, oh good, there's 2 weeks to get the performance back. And I think that once it's back, and then if you extend a second weekend, which is, in my opinion, always a great idea. Keep people on stage, keep people with things to do, keep kids out of trouble. I would extend it that way because I think that Comedy of Errors was its own independent thing. This is a beast of a show, and I think that you guys can do it exceptionally well. But I think that the trap of being gone for 9 days and then it's like, oh my God, I'm back, I'm playing 5 characters and we go up in 3 days is a little daunting. Yeah. And I think people would appreciate having the chance to get back in the room, back rehearsing, and then get it back up. But the secondary beauty to that is the only tech there will be is hanging lights. There will be no building because everything is built.
Yeah, I was about to say, with the set that you're proposing to, it's very easy. A concern by extending another week after is that means we've got 3 weeks of kind of post-spring break BakerShake being in Commons. But with the set that you're proposing,
that's not my business. That's
we can really easily just move the platforms, move the blocks. The lights aren't in the way. The ladders won't be in the way. Just like, paying the sheet back up or something. It would be really, really unobtrusive for Baker students. Very easy to give students the commons, really almost back to how it normally is outside of performances. So I think that's definitely possible, and it is something that Lisa and I will have to talk to our cabinet about too. So I mean, like, you know, dates are tentative; they're in the works. We'll figure it out.
And it's my understanding last year, because I was talking to Catherine about that typically you guys did 2 weekends, and last year it was moved to 1 weekend. I would say the BakerShakes has a longer rehearsal process than a lot of academic theatrical performances. And
Yeah, we do actually. We've
Which
got
is
almost
good.
like 3 months instead of like 2 or 1.5.
I think that it would be a gift to the actors to have the opportunity to have more than 3 performances after that much work.
Yeah.
I do.
I do also think that just 1 weekend is kind of a shame. It's a lot easier for people to, like, just that weekend is a really busy weekend for a student, and then they can't go, and there's not a second opportunity.
Right.
It really makes it easier to get more attendance with 2
Well,
weekends.
but I think it's also, you have to get your audiences. That's not my business. My job is to give you a good show to give your audiences. I'm specifically talking about the people working on the show. And I think it is, it's good for people to be able to really show off the work that they've done. And it's hard to do 3 months of rehearsal and for 3 nights of performances.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a fair point. And you can talk to cabinet about that.
Yeah.
Especially with the stage that you're proposing. It'll be easier to convince cabinet to do 2 weekends with a stage that's really not a stage, almost, other than lights. Just like, you move some stuff and move it back. So they can't really be too upset over that if we do want to extend it to 2 weekends. So we'll talk to them about that after decisions made. But I think there's a lot of potential. I like what I'm hearing, and I am gonna throw out my personal bias that I would like to see a historical play.
What is this? I was trying to look for that list. I couldn't find
We
it.
have done 2 histories.
That's it?
In 40,
40,
almost 50.
Yeah, this is going to be the 48th Shakespeare
I'm assuming
performance.
Richard III.
Richard III in 08, and Henry IV Part 1 in the 70s.
So we all had never done comedy of errors before.
Yeah, this was new, and
then this would be new. I think, okay, so this is, I'm going to say this and somebody's going to steal my idea, but I've been working on this. There's a reason why, and I'm going to look at high school specifically. High schools do like 1 of 6 plays, even though there's 32 that are like confirmed written by Shakespeare. Look that up. You're not right now. I just know you're curious. He's always trying to fact check me. I love it. But the reason why people don't do so many is so specifically. Okay, let's look at Henry VI Part 2. That was on the list. It's a great play. It is a great play. But 2 things happen. Number 1, there's a lot of previous information that you have to be aware of to get you into the world of the play.
Okay.
People are afraid of that. And then 2, it's long, and it kind of seems like it starts in the middle of a story and ends in the middle of a story. People don't have good cuts of the plays. And so something that I am missioned to do is just get great cuts, 90 minutes to 2 hours of all of the plays, and hand them to high school teachers and say, please stop doing Midsummer.
Oh my God,
But honest to God. And I think it's a similar thing here. I mean, Henry V truly is, in my opinion, the best in the canon.
Okay.
This is my favorite play. It's a complete story, and it is a history, but there's so many liberties in it. You guys need to do more histories. I'm just going to put that out there.
I agree, though. That's why I want a history. And our other director is going to pitch Henry VI Part 2.
There you go.
So,
no, that's great.
Yeah, it's going to be history.
There you go. No, and Henry VI Part 2 is a great play. Oh my God, it's a great play.
I'm excited for both, I think.
You should be. They're both wonderful, wonderful plays, and I think that it's important because to me, the real drama is in his histories, because there's so many layers and levels to them, because he was writing in a way that would not get him killed, number 1, but would also entertain and inform a populace that was thinking the same things he was, but were too afraid to say it or put it on paper, or at least say it outside of the tavern, right? And so all of a sudden you have Shakespeare putting so much of that in this coded euphuism on stage, and it's just, that's where, to me, where the drama really is.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it'd be great. That'd be awesome to do that. Do a history this year. That's great. You should do it. The other thing I think, speaking to that vein, about people needing background information,
Okay.
when I was at Great River, I put this into enactment there. Oh, I wish I had. I could probably pull one up to bring. Oh, let's see. What we used to do, well, I'll find it later. I'll email it to you. Is we used to create these little paper deals that would be for every show, and we would do what we call a pre-show conversation, where essentially my job was to go out for all of the shows and walk people through the first 2 scenes of the play. Not give a summary of the play, don't tell them what's going to happen, but a lot of times audiences spend the first 2 scenes of a play going, wait a minute, what is this about? And then they lose all the exposition, and then they're in the story and they're watching somebody fight and they're going, oh, this is fun. They have no idea what's going on. Right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So what we did to break that down is we would have a pre-show conversation where we said, boom, this is what you're about to see, goes into the second scene, and then the rest of the play happens. What we would also have is this pamphlet that had some important information, and the most important thing in it was it had a character map with actors' faces under each character, so that people would be able to sit in the audience going, wait a minute, who is that? Boom, it is this person who's married to this person who's on the French side, not the English side, right? And it would go, okay, I got it, I'm here. And I think whatever you choose, whomever you go, that, and I'll still send it to you so you can make something similar. It has like key points about the play. I think that that's another thing that makes Shakespeare not daunting. Because let's be really honest, it's Friday night, you have your dick appointment or whatever you have with you, right? You're like, what am I going to do on a Friday? I'm being very candid here on purpose, because we're young people and your audience are, early 20s, late teens. What are you going to do on a Friday night? Shakespeare can be daunting, and Shakespeare can be like, oh, we're going to go to the movie. We got to break that down, right? We got to break that down. And so if you have something like that, that will help you. That will help you be like, you know what, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that will just help in general. I think every company who's producing Shakespeare should do that. And a lot of companies are picking up kind of their own version of that. So you can bleep that out of the video. That just kind of shot out of my mouth.
It's okay.
I work in Shakespearean comedy, and trust me, he says much worse.
Oh, we know.
We're all adults here.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I don't want to say we're all mature adults, because that's not necessarily true.
That's not why we'd be doing Shakespeare in our free time.
Definitely not. All right, this sounds wonderful. I really like your pitch. I like that the stage is very unobtrusive. That's gonna make it super easy. It's gonna be a really good kind of like bargaining chip. Like, but our stage is like this.
Well, you should be the star, not the set. I mean, honest to God. And then I think the other side to that is, I have a rule in general.